Hi, welcome to the League of Women Voters of Illinois Power the Vote chat room. In addition to providing informational opportunities, such as this chat room, the LWVIL provides support to local leagues, including the Illinois Voter Guide and consistent messaging. Today, Jan Dorner and Kathy Kenny, League of Women Voters of Illinois Voter Services co-chairs, will be talking with you on how we all can power the vote in the last 35 days before Election Day. We are recording this chat room and it will be available afterwards on the LWVIL YouTube channel.
We hope you brought your questions and your ideas with you today. In order to participate, please scroll over the bottom of your screen to find the Q&A button. Click on it and type in your questions into the window that pops up. The chat function has been turned off. Pam will be reading your questions to our hosts. Please also feel free to share how you've been able to power the vote in the Q&A. We hope to get to everyone's questions by 1 p.m. I would like to now introduce Jan Dorner, LWVIL Vice President of Voter Service and member of the LWV of Elmhurst, and Kathy Kenny, LWVIL Director and member of the LWV of Naperville. Thank you both.
Hi, I'm Kathy Kenny. I'm from LWVIL Naperville. I am also on the board of directors of LWVIL and have been so for a year and a half. Jan?
I am also on the state board. I'm voter service chair with Kathy, co-chair. And this year has been really exciting for us as far as the election. We are really involved with getting the information out to local leagues. We started the Shared Resource Center and have in excess of 170 leaguers on it in order to share information so that we all are using the same information, and we learn from each other, from the local leagues, helping each other.
So what some of the things that that the league does is education. So we educate through forums, we educate through our Illinois Voter Guide, which is live and active right now with all of the candidate information for the state, all of the races that are occurring in the state, including in many cases we have forum videos and Q&As that are updated for those. We also do training, so we do moderator and observer trainings throughout the year, usually not during the election season, so get ready to do those right after November. We develop policies that guide our local leagues and the things that they do, including forums. We keep up on relevant legislation. For instance, in this spring, the vote by mail legislation changed in Illinois, and that was a hot topic. But most of what we do is more like an ombudsman. So between us, we get a lot of questions every day about things that local leagues are curious about doing. So takes up a lot of time and we enjoy doing it.
Yep. We have a very short PowerPoint presentation that we're going to whip through because I'm sure all of you would like to participate as far as questions or tell us what wonderful things your local league is doing.
Let's see if I can get that to come up. So welcome to the Power of the Vote chat after the luncheon. We try to move with what's going on during the election, and right now the theme this week is vote early. Voting started, and so we wanted all of our local leagues to emphasize whether you're voting in person or by mail to just get that done. A big theme this year also is differences between election authorities. So we emphasize to contact your election authority about drop boxes, tracking, early voting sites, and curbside voting. Another big change this year is languages. We have never had so many languages in Illinois on our ballot. So this slide just shows you how many there are, especially in Cook County. On election day, we want to emphasize that there are, speaking of languages, different places at which you can encourage voters to go if they are having problems voting early or on election day. It's going to be in English, Spanish, Arabic, and in the Asian American languages. Again, our voter guide is a great place to get information on election day. We should, if there are changes in polling sites, you should be able to find that information there. A lot of people are asking questions about civics. Are students getting the information, or where is information coming from? The Illinois Civics Education Act requires that civics be taught in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And there are some other laws that have come into place, including the SB 2090 related to people who are incarcerated, have not been convicted, can vote, and people who are leaving incarceration should be given information about how to vote. There's all sorts of ways to combat vote by mail misinformation. Most importantly, know what your election authority rules are and push out that information to your community, and know the facts of the new law. We will have a link to a frequently asked questions that you can look at. And just want to reemphasize, we know so much about voting, but that their constituents out there don't necessarily know all the rules. So it's just to push out that it's never too late to register. There's a grace period, and you can even register on election day. I think people forget about that. And then we have some toolkit items that advertise our Illinois voter guide that we'd like to push out. And then, because the theme this week is early voting, we have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter graphics that would be really good to put out this week. And those are all on the Shared Resource Center. Barb?
No, Pam.
Pam, sorry.
What questions do you have from the Q&A for us?
Yeah, well, the first one is kind of interesting because I hear this too, that I'm encouraging people to vote, and they'll say, well, Illinois is such a blue state. Really, my vote is just not going to make a difference. And what are some responses I can give just to get people to still vote, even though maybe at the top of the ballot it is not as close as in some other states, I guess.
Exactly. That's a great place to start. This morning I heard on TV that there are still 14% of the voting population that still haven't decided on their presidential vote. I'm not sure I know any of those people. and up at that level, I think we've all decided long ago. But there are all kinds, every state rep is up for election, a third of the senators, and all kinds of county officials are up. And let's not forget about judges. We're hearing about some Supreme Court judges at this point, but we're in a state where you vote for judges. So there are lots of judges running for election and for retention. And the Illinois Voter Guide has all that information, all their ratings. We're still waiting to hear about the retention judges because
there's so many.
Yeah, and so that probably won't be up until October on the Illinois Voter Guide, but the other judges are up there. Their classification.
Yeah, so it'll say that there's two sections of ratings. There's the Illinois State Bar Association, and then oftentimes there's your county bar association rating. And so what they will say is either highly recommended, recommended, or the third category is not recommended / not rated. And those aren't separate. Sometimes people are not recommended because they're not rated, so or they didn't get enough ratings. So don't take those as one or the other.
Okay, yeah, and someone added in not to forget about the fair tax referendum, which needs votes. Is the league encouraging members to volunteer as poll workers in November? That's a question I had.
Yes, we put that in our newsletter several times, and yes, we're encouraging them to go do that, bring all their friends. There's a shortage, of course, because the demographic that normally does that is older and are not as likely to volunteer during a pandemic.
Okay. This is going back to the question about getting people to vote, specifically 20 to 30-year-olds. They tend to have lower voter participation. Is there things that you have seen that have been effective in getting those people to the polls, that age group?
That's a tough demographic because in high school we can reach them, and grade school and high school civics is required to be taught. Something happens in the 20s or 30s, maybe they're just all, busy with their lives. But I would suggest that you go where they are. So whether that's coffee shops or whatever organizations they're involved in, even in your businesses, if you can put nonpartisan things up, that's good. And social media is good as well. If you can hashtag, we're all doing social media now, but if you can hashtag things with a hashtag that's more likely to reach them, that would be helpful.
And perhaps there's down ballot races that they might be interested in. Maybe the Forest Preserve District, maybe they're into biking or hiking, and they need to be encouraged to vote in those races.
Yeah, and my children are in that demographic right now, and I see where that's a problem. And my solution is I'm on them, as my generation should be on them to make sure they register and vote.
Yeah. There is a question about voting by mail. And so everyone wants to make sure their vote is counted. If someone were to make a mistake on their vote by mail ballot, how should that be corrected?
So if you spoil or damage your ballot, you can contact your election authority for instructions how to obtain another ballot.
The other way is you can bring it into an early voting site and just say, you know what, I've decided to early vote. Here's my vote by mail ballot. And you can turn it in and get a regular ballot. You should probably be aware that different early voting sites have different abilities. Chicago and Cook are all, you vote on a computer, but then a ballot is printed out. So that's the paper trail, and you can check it before you put it in your scanner. Kathy and I are in DuPage, and there's only one early voting site, and it's out in Wheaton, where you can vote on paper. Otherwise, you're voting on a computer, and right next to the computer is the old cash registers, and they have a running total. And so that's where you would check to see if you voted the way you wanted to, and then you push vote. So that way is not something that I want to do. So I'll either go out to Wheaton, or I have an early vote by mail ballot. Or maybe I'll even go on election day. I don't know.
There's just been such a focus on mail-in ballots this year, but then there's been news stories, and I've seen this like in New York, about it's just taken forever to count the mail-in ballots. And I think that's causing a little bit of angst. It's like, on one hand, it's convenient. On the other hand, what if 2 weeks later they're still counting mail-in ballots? So is Illinois ready for this? For the best, as far as you know, are they ready to count all these new mail-in ballots this year?
So Kathy and I always like to start out with any of our questions with, there's 108 election authorities in Illinois. And I'm sure everybody on this call knows this, but it really is one of those things that everyone has different ways of doing things. But, You know, for the last several months, we have been taught about flattening the curve. Now, obviously that's COVID, but we can do the same thing and flatten the curve by requesting our vote by mail ballot early and filling it out and returning it early as well.
One of the misconceptions I hear all the time is, how are they going to count all of those vote by mail ballots starting November 3rd? And one of the education pieces we need to put out is that that's not how they do it. That I'm going to mail my ballot that I just got today, and it will probably be counted, verified, counted, and scanned by the end of the week, by the time they get it. So those are being scanned all through the next 4 weeks. And it is only after 7 p.m., sometime after 7 p.m. November 3rd, that they will push a button and tabulate that. So the work can be stretched out, as Jan said, over these 4 weeks. And only the ballots that come in after November 3rd will be the hard part, you know, the delay part. So that's why we're pushing everybody to, you know, push the work to the front end.
Okay. There's some questions that I think are just people asking for clarification. Okay, so exchanging your mail-in ballot for early voting, is it true that you must bring your mail ballot if you want to vote in person? I think you said it.
It is not true. Okay, so we had just found out that if you want to vote, okay, here's the deal.
Okay.
It's different in every election authority.
Alrighty.
So bring it with you. Does it hurt to bring it with you? I mean, you've got it, unless the dog ate it and you're up a creek. Go bring it with you. It doesn't hurt. It, you know, and if you bring it with you and they say, yeah, we'll look on the poll book and we'll mark you as early voting rather than vote by mail. Okay, then you can leave the ballot there. They can destroy it, you know, rip it up, or you can rip it up, or, you know, when you get home, give it to the dog to eat. It's hard to get the word out when everything is so inconsistent across.
Yeah, because then there's another comment, just in Kane County, you must bring your mail-in ballot with you if you decide to vote in person. Also, mail-in ballots must have the same signatures as on your voter registration. So that's a statement. Then the question was, is this true in all counties in Illinois? Do you know if
Yes.
this is true in all states? So
Yeah.
it depends, right? Be safe. Bring your mail-in ballot, right?
Right.
Be safe.
Right.
Then there's, from the slideshow you went through, this is also just like a clarification. You had talked about for voter registration, you have to bring in one of two documents that had to be a state ID. If someone brought in like just their driver's license, is that good enough, or do you still need two documents?
You need two.
You need two.
But only one has to have your current address on it. You know, so your second one could be your, you know, school ID. It could be a credit card. It could be, hey, look, I just got this in the mail kind of thing.
But the one with your address, does it have to be a state ID?
No.
Okay, great. Somehow someone misread the slide and felt it said state ID. Okay. I have a question. Just, I know we have 108 election authorities, but the state of Illinois, how do we compare to other states as far as voter participation?
So we're right about in the middle.
Okay.
We're right about, you know, if you look at just general elections, we're about 60-some%. There's a state I won't name that's down at 42%. I just looked at 2018. And then another state that's I won't name that one either, that's about 74%. So we're kind of in the middle. I expect this election to probably break all records. It's for general elections. Yeah. It just seems to be going that way.
So this is more on just voting. if someone has been displaced from their home and they're just in transit and they don't really have they're not residing in a voting district for the 30-day minimum, can they still vote?
In Illinois, the voter can vote in the district that they resided in for the last 30 days.
Okay, all right.
So if you move from another state though, that's harder to do. So you should plan ahead to probably still vote in the state you moved from if you do a vote early.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, back to the fair tax referendum. Our voter guide doesn't cover referendum
It does.
question. It does. Oh, good.
Yeah.
So when voters want to get informed about the referendum, they can go to our voter guide and find out.
Right. And if you're in an area, check the Illinois voter guide. And if there's a referendum that's missing, let us, Jan and I know. I know that's probably one of the hardest pieces to get in there. I know that the 2-page ones are still being looked at by our vendor before they're uploaded. So we talked to them about that yesterday. So hopefully that will be included.
And the fair tax one has the pro and con is the exact same pro and con that we received in the mail from the Secretary of State.
Okay.
Right.
And then someone just asked, where can they get information on judges on the ballot? I think you had gone through that before, but do you want to repeat
Yeah,
that?
so on Illinois voter guide, if you go into, you type in your address and it brings up your ballot. So it'll only bring up your judges. So as you go down, it starts federal on the left side and you go down to state and local, and the last one is judicial. So you should be able to bring that up, and then you'll see the candidate, and then as you go down, there'll be the rating right in there, pretty close to the top of the page.
Great. We do have a clarification. This is again on mail-in ballots. Somebody that's from Lake County said if you lost your mail-in ballot, you can still vote a provisional ballot that will be counted after enough time has passed after the election to verify that you did not send in a mail-in ballot. Okay.
Right.
And then as far as information on judges, there's also the Illinois Bar Association, someone suggested.
Well,
That's where we derive our information.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
there's,
yeah, that's where
There's all sorts of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There's so much concern about the security of our elections. So someone did ask about our voter registration rolls. Are they secure from outside manipulation? Are the new voting machines, do they have what you feel would be necessary security features?
Okay, so let me start again. There's 108 different election authorities in Illinois. And so the new voting machines are perhaps in, I think Chicago and Cook have the new voting machines. I'm pretty sure DuPage doesn't. I don't know about any of the others.
Is the question about the voter rolls as they're contained at the state level?
Yeah, it says, are Illinois voter registration rolls secure from outside manipulation?
So Illinois was the first one to self-report that they were hacked. So we're hoping they have gotten federal funding to address that. So I'm assuming they have. That's
okay.
And here's the other thing about, I think the one good thing about having 108 election authorities, you know, if those bad actors hack and get into Jackson County, they're not necessarily going to get into Champaign County or Cook County or Lake County.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something good about having 108 different election authorities.
Yeah. There's been some news in the last couple days about ballot harvesting. Can you explain what that term even means?
So for vote by mail ballots, on the back, you can theoretically you can have 3 different signatures on the back of the envelope. The first one is the voter's signature. The second one is if I needed help voting and my husband helped me vote, he would sign the second one. The third one says, I want my husband to drop my ballot off at a drop box in the early voting site in Elmhurst City Hall. I have to fill that out and say it's okay for him to do it. So in the past, there have been people who would, walk up and down their streets and say, I'll be happy to take your ballots in, or let me do that for you, or, groups that do that. And either they put them in a jewel bag and throw them in the trunk of their car and it never gets to a ballot box, or they purposely don't deliver them to where they should be. Again, it depends on your local election authority. Chicago is recommending that you do not deliver more than 10. If you are helping your neighbors and have them fill it out, that's about it. But, right now there's a guy sitting in jail in, is it North Carolina? North Carolina, for doing that ballot harvesting. He picked all those ballots up and never delivered them. My local league had a meeting with the DuPage County clerk, and we asked her, hey, what if the Elmhurst League sets up a program and we help out? And she said, I would think long and hard should you decide to do that. Not
The
that
other thing is there's no postage required if it's mailed within the US. So a lot of that helping before was, so that they were assuming people wouldn't want to spend this money on a stamp. So it's easy to mail. Easier.
So the term ballot harvesting always refers to someone picking up the ballots and then not delivering them. Ballot harvesting, in and of itself, that term is a bad thing.
Yes,
Yes.
I would say
okay.
so.
Okay.
Yes, the term is not. Let's say it's not
good. But depending on your election authority, you can pick up an elderly neighbor's ballot and deliver it for them.
Correct.
You just can't go down blocks and do it, depending on your authority. Okay.
You probably should not. It is.
Okay.
It is not something that is recommended.
Mm-mm.
And I would say by any of the 108 election authorities.
Okay. Oh, these election authorities, are they always necessarily county? I know Chicago is different than Cook County, but aside from that, are they generally a county? An election authority is generally a county. Okay.
102 of them are counties and 6 of them are cities.
Okay. What are some of the important dates that we should all keep in mind for this year's election?
I think what's left are really registration dates. You can register by mail through October 6th. You can register online through October 18th. And then starting October 19th begins the grace period where you can register at your early voting site. And then on the 3rd, you can register at your polling place. The other date is the 2 dates relate to vote by mail. So you want to postmark or drop box, that's becoming a verb, drop box your vote by mail ballot by November 3rd. You can request a vote by mail ballot through October 29th, but that date is really not recommended.
Okay.
unless you're standing there voting and turning it right around in the same spot.
Helene Gabelnick
Yep.
just wanted everyone to know, this is pretty great. The Chicago Board of Elections has made special arrangement for 89 senior facilities. The ballots will be dropped off and a drop box will be provided in the facility. So that is,
Good.
yeah, that's a really great
Thanks, Helene.
model. I'm going to, because here's a question that came in on that you talked about the civics education that our schools are required to have. Well, this year with everything being remote, are they doing virtual civic classrooms? What do you know what's happening?
So it depends on, the leagues are really innovating. They're typically they've done stroll of the polls and birthday boxes and mock elections and you name it. The leagues have been in the schools doing it. Well, now everything's pretty virtual. So I know Naperville is doing their birthday box has become an email box. So the kids opt in, of course, and they're allowed to email them handwritten or typed voter encouragement letters. The stroll of the polls probably are still happening, but they're not knocking on doors. They're more leaving stickers at the door with voting information. So people are being really creative with drive-by everything. So, and we have a civics lesson that we have adapted, Jan adapted for, and we've put out on the Shared Resource Center that can be used in any of the high schools. If you have a contact with a teacher. Several of our leagues are doing video contests where the kids create videos and then they're judged for the best video. I know that's happening in Wheaton. Homewood Flossmoor area is doing one, and I'm thinking I'm forgetting another one that are creating those contests to create interest among the high school kids.
That's great. That's good. So I am going to give everyone a couple more seconds. I don't see any more questions.
Would anyone like to share in the Q&A what they're doing with their local league to power the vote? That we can all use, we can all learn from each other.
And if you have a couple of hours, go through that Shared Resource Center because there's all kinds of really great ideas, really great FAQs put together. There's a couple of different PowerPoint presentations that are really well done. There's lots of information that that anyone, any league member can use and share with his or her own league.
And I'd like to highlight, we just got something in last week that we hadn't had a chance to tell you about, is the Evanston League has created a special edition of their Intercom newsletter, and it's just packed with information. It's really a great newsletter. So if you go into the Shared Resource Center or have someone go in for you, or ask to be allowed in from us, then it's right in the, we have what's called a local league toolkit. So we put it in there. It is a great example of what can be done either on your website or through your email list.
And how would people ask to be allowed into the voter service drive? What's the best way for them to do that?
They can either email us or email voter service, singular, voter service at LWVIL.org. And we will, we have how many, Jan? 170?
Yeah, it's
voter
over
service
170, yeah.
members already.
And here's the deal that because it's a Dropbox and a G Suite, it really likes a Gmail address, email address. So, I mean, we try and put others in there, but it just, you know,
So email us and I can email you back a quick Google instruction how to make your own Gmail account. And people have done that as well and come right back with me. Oh, here's my new Gmail account, and just add them on.
Great. We do have one question that someone was more specific when you're talking about dropping off someone else's ballot. how do they, is there an affidavit portion on the envelope that they must sign to say that they've dropped off someone else's ballot?
The voter has to sign it, not, I mean, if I ask Kathy to drop off my ballot, I would have to fill it out, but she would not have to sign it. And really, per election law, even to put a ballot in the mail, theoretically, you are the only one, the voter is the only one that could put a ballot in the mail, but there's nobody, when John's going out to grab a gallon of milk, you say, drop this in the mailbox. Nobody's standing at the mailbox saying, wait, where's the affidavit signature? So, but the election law says you are the only one that's allowed to mail your ballot.
Someone just, Ann Masters, wanted to share that the LWVEA Edwardsville did 2 mornings of in-person voter registration at Edwardsville High School for National Voter Registration Day in partnership with the local NAACP. We were outside of tables taking care with masks and social distancing. So congratulations.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of the drive-by voter registration. You know, if you can set that up either at the high school or another popular place, that's been successful.
Rosemary wanted to share that LWV Deerfield area has printed handouts on voting that are being inserted into food pantry baskets and library pickup book bundles.
Yeah.
Also, we are emailing these PDFs and PDFs of posters with IVG information to houses of worship and senior centers and other non-tactile preferring places for inclusion in their e-newsletters.
Thank you, Rosemary. That's great. And we at the State League joined a coalition called Promote the Vote, and they have printed out 100,000. No, I don't remember.
100,000.
100,000 cards. One side English, one side Spanish. It's pretty Chicago-centric, but they were passing them out in food pantries, houses of worship. Especially, there it is, especially for those people who don't have access to the internet. So it was a lot of, phone calls, phone numbers on there. And
so we're part of this coalition of maybe 20 organizations, Jan, and they just felt that there are certain demographics that just are not going to be reached by our social media and all of our other internet contacting, and they have really, I think they've pushed out of the 100,000, they only have probably 10,000 left. They've put them in all of the food pantries, and there's a health, is it Advocate or Access Health?
Access Health
is getting those out to their contacts as well. So if anyone wants a copy of this, this is in our shared resource center. The Chicago one is both Spanish and English, but we're working to get this Illinois one translated as well.
Is there anything else you'd like to share from the shared drive that people should know about that has been, people have said, wow, I really want to use that? Since we don't seem to have any other questions and we have some time.
Yeah, I liked I think we can do this again, even not in times of COVID. I liked the video contest. Barb, you can probably talk a little bit more about what Wheaton did. I know Homewood Flossmoor is down there, is hitting probably a couple different school districts, probably at least 10 or more schools are involved. So if you want to talk a little bit about what you did as far as video contest, that might be enlightening. That's all in the shared resource center as well.
Our goal was to try and engage new voters for the first time to make not TikTok, but 30-second to 45-second videos on how to vote by mail, why you should register, why it's important to vote, why are they looking forward to vote. And we actually set up 4 contest areas, and we looked for some local sponsorships so that we could offer a monetary prize to the student winners of the 4 categories. And then hopefully we'll be able to use those videos. We've asked for permission to use those videos on social media to engage other young
Cool.
people throughout the state.
Yeah, I think the other league down by Homewood Flossmoor is Park Forest. So between the two of them, they covered a lot of school districts as well.
Will you
So I
put
think
your,
that's a great idea going forward.
will you put your winners? When will you determine your winners, Barb?
We're going to be starting the judging this week. So yeah, our winners will be up on social media and on our website.
Okay, so then would you share it to the shared resource drive?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Great.
Yes, and
People love to be
the one in
famous.
this is South Cook is partnering with I think it's Clear Channel. Someone will chat in there. A radio station, so they are going to have a lot of publicity about it as well.
I think LaGrange partnered with a radio station also
Great.
to get the word out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And our Illinois voter guide is being advertised on WBEZ. I heard that driving in the car Saturday night. Couldn't believe it. So it's good to hear things on the radio related to League.
We also have in the shared resource drive, we have at least 7 different signs that are available. And this is the one that the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst and a couple other, Downers Grove, Wooddale Lisle, Roselle Bloomingdale, and Central Kane had these printed out. And mostly, there's 7 different ones, but mostly this little thing changes. This is the QR code for Illinois Voter Guide, and it remains the same, so you can use this sign over and over. So we just ordered those online and got them within a week.
Can I just give a shout out that Wheaton is doing a run to the polls? And we have t-shirts, and you can find out more information on the Wheaton League website, but it's proven to be successful with the 18 to 30-year-olds. They're runners anyway, and they like the idea of running to the polls and getting a t-shirt that says vote, vote, vote. And on the back, it has a QR code for voter registration. So hopefully around the state, you'll be seeing people running, or in my case, walking or crawling the 5K to promote the vote and get people out to do their ballots, file their ballots. Okay. Someone did ask the question, can you please advise how to access the voter service shared drive? Maybe.
Yeah, so you can email Jan or I, or email voterservice@lwvil.org, and we will add you as a member. It's a shared drive, so when you're in Google, if you want to get back to it after you've been out for a couple weeks or a couple days, go to shared drives on the left side of your Google Drive, and it should show up as one of your shared drives.
Okay. Well,
Emailing Kathy and I, it's just our first initial and our last name. So jdorner@lwvil.org or kkenny@lwvil.org. So.
Well, one last call for any further questions or comments or sharing of what you all are doing in your area of the state. Please share with Jan and Kathy any resources that you've developed that other leagues may want to use.
I just want to say that, you know, we follow all the Facebooks of all the leagues around the state, and it's just been, everyone has stepped up their game. I mean, it is just great, the education that's going on through your social media, and everyone seems to be getting the message out pretty well about what's going on. And just the forums, the pivot to virtual forums has been great. Everybody has become we're all producers now. We know how to produce make a production and you know, sound, lighting, and
we all have a run of show. We
that.
all have our scripts. I've done 4 forums so far, 3 congressional districts and 1 state rep. And I have 2 more scheduled for October 1st and October 8th. But, you know, and, you know, I just have to put on a nice sweater and lipstick. And I don't have to drive anywhere.
I really think that these are not going to go away. When you can have a forum that shows up 40 people and then have a Zoom forum 2 years later that shows up 500 people, why would we? I mean, we may go back into person, but I think the Zoom is really has benefited us and gotten our name out there so much better than we have been able to do in person. So there's a silver lining there.
Allison's asking a question. We have been receiving many questions via our info LWVIL email address about how to use the Illinois Voter Guide. Can you please go over how to get started, what features it offers, etc.?
Sure, I could actually do a quick, I could probably do a very quick
share. Yeah.
demonstration.
I was just trying to do that, but
And
you're better at it than I.
Oops, don't I do that? Okay, so this is our Illinois voter guide. And this year we were able to add, because of the new law, we were able to add some tiles related to vote by mail. But if no one wants to look at my address, I can type in my address, or anyone else wants to put one in the chat. But we only require you to put in your address, and that's so that you can get your own unique ballot. And right now it's taking about 10 seconds to get in because there's so much going on there with videos and things like that. So you just have to be patient with that. So this is the election center. We're going to add a tile. We'd like to add a tile for election day information, what you can do if you need help voting. But basically we have a request a ballot, check your registration, find out how to vote. If you want to go back to a different address, but research your ballot is really where it's at. That's where all the candidate information is. And as I said before, you can look down the left side. And what this tool does is really helps you make a plan to vote. It's going to help you pick your candidates, decide where you want to vote, when you want to vote, and even save a ballot that you can bring with you. And that becomes very important based on the judges, because in Chicago, I put in my sister's address, and she has 66 judicial retentions, and I think it was 20 some vacancies, or maybe 18 vacancies that she has to pick from. That's very hard to take into a booth for. So you can print your ballot, sample ballot off of here. But if you just go into even just local candidates, let's just pick recorder. We will have videos that have been done by local leagues, and Q&A that maybe a local league submitted those questions and we got those to the candidate. So you can do that all the way down. And then judicial, as you can see, there's all these judges. Someone asked about ratings. So could take a look at one of them, and here she is highly recommended by the DuPage County Bar Association, recommended by Illinois State Bar Association. There's a video that she's done for herself, her experience, education. And then if there isn't a Q&A to that candidate, we try to put some type of information that links to their website. So, and then there's also measures. So those 3 advisory referendums are in there now for DuPage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the fair tax referendum amendment is in there with pros and cons. So very robust, where we have decided it should be robust. It will have candidates for every position in the state, and where leagues are and have supplemented the guide, it's a much better guide. So we have
Kathy, show
over
how
3,000 viewers already.
click on yes to add to my ballot.
So if you want to say yes,
Of course.
and that's
Right,
added to your
and then-
ballot, and then
And then you go back to the left side there.
so
So out of 23 races,
right.
Kathy's voted for 1. So she could email the ballot to herself, or she could print the ballot. So another issue with the 108 election authorities, I can tell you in DuPage, you're not allowed to use your phone in the ballot, in the polling place.
Right.
So you would have to print your ballot. That's for those of us who are of a certain age that have printers. The question about the 20 to 30-year-olds that earlier was, how do you get them engaged? Well, you certainly don't say you can't bring your phone and use your phone with you. Unfortunately, in DuPage, it's still the case. So either they have to remember it or sneak their phone in to be able to get to their ballots.
So again, I think ideally, if you go through this guide, even if you're using other sources of information, I think it's nice to go through this guide and print out your sample ballot to bring with you, just because of the judges are so hard to remember. So.
And then you can also on this make a plan to vote. Where is that?
Okay, so if I go back up here on that tile up, I just clicked on the left, you can find out how to vote. So you can choose by mail, in person. If I go by mail, it's probably going to ask me, do you want to, apply for one? In person, you can pick, depending on the date you pick, it will decide what voting locations are open and what time. So if I picked today, let's see, I would get this location. DuPage County Fairgrounds is where I can vote now. But if I went to election day, well, actually, I think those are still being loaded because a lot of those are not set yet. So, but if I just picked a day in October, it will have the Municipal Center, which is another early voting site, and the Islamic Center. So if I picked the 3rd, we'll see how far along they've gotten. They want me to select a time, so I'm just going to say before work, right? And then you can sign up if you would like for a reminder. When those are, right now it says your polling site is still being finalized because they are waiting for, a lot of election authorities are still finalizing those. So not to worry that they have till November 3rd to do that, but that should be coming in there shortly.
So Kathy can get a reminder by email or a text message.
Correct.
If she puts her cell phone number in to say, don't forget, you're voting at 6:30 on Tuesday, November 3rd.
So you can go through and do this as many times as you want, and it'll keep updating. So if you want to come back after you've said finish here, it'll update for any changes. So if I want to vote by mail, you've got those two. Yes, help me make a plan to mail it back. That's where I'm at. And then find a drop-off location. And so in my particular situation, they list the 421 building in Wheaton. So I haven't clicked on one of these to see if it'll take me anywhere. I don't think it gives me directions, but that'll be the next phase. Oh, view on Google Maps. There you go.
Yep.
So any other questions there?
Allison's asking, is the Illinois Voter Guide offered by LWVIL for this election only?
No, we have a 4-year contract with them that we signed in January of 2020. So this is year 1. So in the spring of 2021, we'll have the Illinois Voter Guide available. There are some issues with getting all the information in there about the GIS, the boundaries for your park district and your mosquito abatement district. So they probably won't be, they'll probably be, okay, here's all the people running for the Elmhurst Park District. But you know, if your park district is in different different districts, you won't have that. But any municipality over 50,000 and any
No,
school
over 10,000.
over 10,000, sorry, and all the school districts will be loaded in. So park districts might not be but if your municipality is over 10,000, and no matter what size the school district, that'll be loaded in as well. So that'll be in April of 2021, and then we'll have another big election in 2022 that this is covered by. We got a pretty good deal, and we're happy with that. So we're covered from now until 2023. I had to
Right,
count.
and they continue to innovate with this software. So we are liking everything that has changed, even from the primaries to this general. They've really improved it. So we think it's a good software to be with.
Well, thank you, Jan and Kathy. I do want to let you know that people have thanked you on the chat, on the Q&A for don't sell yourself short. You've all done so much work that we're really appreciative of. And thanks for sharing it with us today. I'd also like to thank Pam and Michelle Thorsell, who's running this show behind the scenes, for all her work in preparing for today's chat, and to invite you all to join us tonight for a chat on the fair tax from 7 to 8, and on October 1st, a chat on criminal justice at noon till 1 again. Yep. So thank you, and please feel free to reach out to Jan and Kathy with any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.